Alright folks, let's go ahead and get this party started a bit. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday so far. We played some Final Fantasy V here in a little bit, and that should be fun. Before we do that, while we're getting people in, we'll have a little bit of different content. The Ministry of Truth now says it's okay to say that Koof came from the Wuhan lab, but only so long as we say it was accidental. I think it actually probably was accidental. Because it began by the Wuhan lab, so probably like we've known about this for over a year that's where it came from, but you weren't really allowed to say that. What probably happened is a worker, due to human error, got infected with the virus and then went out into social environments and spread it to other people. And before they realized what happened, everyone was sick with it, and because it wasn't like a deadly virus, I mean, it really wasn't. It was able to spread very, very quickly and then get to the people that actually could be, severely negatively impacted by the virus. Is that your music playing in the background? Yes, that is mine. All right, let's look at something funny. Like smallpox almost came back because of a lab error. Like the American government has smallpox in a lab, and somebody almost accidentally gave it to themselves. So human error is actually a big cause of lots of things. I had a friend who's a security expert, and basically he said that it was like the biggest vulnerability in any system is always human. That is to say that if you wanna hack someone's website, what's much easier than trying to brute force their password or something like that is to simply get the person to give you the password, and they often will. You could, if you can find the person's number, you could call them up and say that you're the ISP and something like that. You can basically get access through people. So yeah, the human ability to make error is probably the most significant part of any particular system, and so that makes sense to me that it was like accidentally released, intentionally covered up, and lied about. Yeah, totally. But that's par for the course there. So anyway, let's take a look at just this funny thing. This is actually an ancient video, but I just thought it was really funny.
Because democracy basically means
it's so slow.
Government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. So let us say, government by the retarded, for the retarded, of the retarded.
It's so slow the way he's saying it. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. That guy's actually like a crazy religious person who died, I think, in 1990, and was deported after he tried to poison a town, I think. A mass food poisoning attack with salmonella bacteria and aborted an assassination plot to murder U.S. Attorney Charles H. Turner. Yeah, and he was deported. Anyway, so there's that guy. He's kind of funny. Just like that delivery was so funny. He's like, but the people are retarded. All right. Here we go, guys. Here we go. We're going to rank Metallica albums. Here we go. Metallica tier list. This will be objective. This is the objective best albums. Okay. I'm going to skip the singles because those don't really matter. I mean, does anyone in 2021, even care about singles? You can buy each individual song if you want. There's no singles. And their singles were never that relevant except that they had B-sides that were cover songs. So we're going to skip this one and start with this. And Justice for All, that's an S. I don't know what you guys think about Metallica albums. Everyone's got like different opinions about where they are. I think the S ones are going to be easy, but I think people are going to get upset about when they start seeing, especially C, D, F. People are going to have opinions about it. All right, so yeah, and Justice for All is their best. It's an S. That's their best compositions, their best performances, except for vocals. James's best vocal performance is probably Black Album or Load. But it's an okay vocal performance and it fits. I actually like the production on And Justice for All. That's controversial, but I think the production's really good and it really fits what they're doing there. So yeah, definitely best instrumental performances and best compositions are Justice for All. The other ones are singles. Death Magnetic. This one is an F. This is going to be a controversial one. Someone says everything after Cliff Burton is bad. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because I think their best album is after Cliff Burton. So other people will be like, well, this is actually D. I could see people thinking it's D objectively. I actually think it's F. I think it's some of their worst compositions ever. It's the worst solos that Kirk Hammett ever did were on this album right here. By far. Like, they're all chopped up pieces of other solos he did. They're really bad. And the compositions in general are really bad. There's only if you were to go riff by riff, there's good riffs on this album, but the riffs are always buried in bad songs. So if you're maybe it's like an E if you're like going riff by riff, or maybe even D, because there's some A riffs, but they're in F songs. So there you go. And the production's awful. It's probably their worst production. It's completely dry. I don't know what. Who was it who did the production? The guy who always did all the the guy who did all the Slayer albums. Who am I thinking of? Anyway, he did a terrible job producing this. It's one of their worst ones ever. And unfortunately, like, it made James's voice sound bad. The guitar tone is, everything about it is bad. Bad production, bad songs, bad solos, bad vocal performance, bad instrumental performances. I'd say actually Lars sounds pretty good on that one. Other than that, like, it's a decent Lars performance. Not as good as Black Album, but it's pretty good. Garage Inc. This is technically cover songs, but I'm going to put it up here. Maybe this one doesn't count and you should like leave it off the list. But it's a really good double album if you get it. The performances on it are really good across the board, at least for the new songs and the old songs. They're all really good. The production is very good for the new stuff and pretty good for the old stuff too. Pretty darn good. It's that 80s production that people like from Metallica. The only bad production would be the rehearsal takes for the Motorhead songs. They played at Lemmy's 50th birthday party, so the last songs on disc 2 are really poor production, but they weren't intended to be released. So I completely forgive them for that bad production on those 5. Otherwise, it's a really good album. Here's another thing that's cool about this album is that it gets you into a bunch of other metal because it's a bunch of cover songs, all of them good by really, really good bands across the board. So if you've never heard Merciful Fate songs, that Merciful Fate medley is a really good medley for early Merciful Fate. Will totally get you into Merciful Fate, one of my favorite 80s bands, I guess, and really they're still around, so they still do good stuff too. So I think Garage Inc. is an A album. Let's go to this one, Hardwired. That's a C. Hardwired would be an A, but it's 2 discs. So half the songs on it, they're batting 500. So it ends up averaging out as a C. Half the songs are just mediocre or forgettable or like D level bad. And then the other half are decent and good. So it would be A. If it were 10 songs long, it'd be A. But it's like, how many tracks is it? It's like 18 or 20 tracks. Because it's so long, it's a C. There's too much material. If they had done the load reload thing and picked 10 and really worked them up, made them better, and dropped some of the garbage, you'd probably have 2 good albums instead of 1 mediocre album. So it's C, and I'd actually put it kind of mid C. I think it's a C. Black Album's the decline. I think so too in a number of ways. The only thing I like from Death Magnetic is Unforgiven 3, but more so because it's part of a trilogy of songs. I think that one's kind of an okay song, but I actually don't like that song very much. All right, Kill 'Em All, that's an A, and I'd actually put it here. This is a good album for a bunch of reasons. The songs on it are good. It's got a lot of great performances. The vocal performance by James, even though it's very early and he's like, he has a lot of this, trying to do this screaming tone. It doesn't really work for him. So you might knock that, but it's very much a product of like early 80s, 1983 sound. No one had done this. This was an extremely influential album on a bunch of different bands. I like the cover art too, like just the blood, the black and the white and the red looks really cool. This is really influential on a lot of other bands, including Pantera. It really made thrash metal like a big thing. And frankly, most of the songs on it are good. You have a bunch of songs by Dave Mustaine, who would go on to form Megadeth after being kicked out of the band right before recording this. And they're really good songs in general, Jump in the Fire and all of those. And there's a bunch of his songs that show up, not a bunch of his songs, but there's some of his material that shows up on the next album too. So anyway, this is a really good album. In general, it's great to listen to all the way through. It's one of those classic thrash albums, kind of like Rain in Blood, that it's a really good album to put on and listen to all the way through. Yeah, it's not flawless. Kirk Hammett puts on some really good guitar performances. His solos are really cool, and they have a great energy to them. So in general, it's a really good album. I don't know if we want to do live albums. I'll do live albums at the end. Next one's Load. Load is probably... It's a C. I think it's a C, not a B. I think it's a C. I think it's right here. But Load tends to get crapped on because the band cut their hair, and this is really like a rock album. It's much more tame than what they did before. But there's a lot of good metal on this album still. And I think the problem with this album is the same problem with Hardwired, is that there's too many songs. There's 14 songs on it, and there's 8 good ones. There's 8 really good songs. So if they'd cut 4 to 6 songs out of the album, you'd be at least a B. It'd be at least a B, if not an A. But they didn't do that. I think their philosophy, and this was the philosophy of almost every band in the 90s, was because singles were kind of going away, you put all the material on your album. Everything was on the album. There was never a time where you had... it's like, we recorded 14 songs, we picked the best 8 because that's what fits on an album. Rather, what they did was they put every song on the album, whether it was good or bad. So you ended up with like a lot of dead tracks in 90s albums. That's just something that kind of happened along the way. So maybe you'll agree with me that maybe these are just a little too many songs. But there's some great ones on here. There's Until It Sleeps. There's like Wasting My Hate, Ate My Bitch. There's some really good songs on here that are good rock songs. Next is Lulu. Now, this is not technically a Metallica album, but it's very, very bad. It's definitely the worst thing that they've ever showed up on. It's a double album, too. It's a double album of garbage. There's not a single good song on it. There's very few any good moments. I'd say its only redeeming factors, we got the I Am the Table meme. I am the table. I am the table. I am the table. I can't believe that they recorded an entire album of this stuff. Like, it just it boggles the mind. I guess they who's Lou Reed. I guess they really had a lot of respect for Lou Reed to do this, but it seems like Lou Reed made a big joke of this album. It's absolutely, it's so postmodern, it's just impossible to listen to. And like Metallica plus postmodern just doesn't really work. So I'd say it's definitely the worst thing they showed up on. Technically, it's not a Metallica album, but they're the band on the entire album, so I'm going to put it in here because it's garbage. Absolutely one of the worst things I've ever heard in my entire life. Let me put it that way. Master of Puppets is easily an S. I don't think it's as good as And Justice for All, but it is very good. It's 8 very good songs. Every single song on the album is like an S-tier song. Every single song on the album is worthy to be played live, is worthy to be listened to, is worthy to be learned if you're learning guitar. Same thing with And Justice for All. Every single song is good. There's 8 great songs on here. I don't need to go over too many. Virtually every song in this album has been covered by a major metal band at some point, and that's probably a good indicator that this album is among their best. Some people put it here. I think it's here. And the reason I think it's there is that it's just not as compositionally good as And Justice for All. I probably like the production on here better, but the compositions on And Justice for All are better, and the performances are better on Justice for All. But the compositions on Master of Puppets are really, really good. You had another instrumental track. You've had an instrumental track on... they had instrumental tracks on like 3 albums in a row. Actually, their first 4 albums all have an instrumental track, technically. Because Kill 'Em All has that bass solo, Pulling Teeth, which is really good. So Master of Puppets had Orion. I think if you're comparing Orion to Live Is to Die, I probably will take Orion over that, but definitely every single one's a classic. Got a song about Cthulhu in there, like The Thing That Should Not Be. Good stuff. They continue to write stuff about like H.P. Lovecraft mythos, which I enjoy. All right, we're skipping EPs and singles. Reload. Reload's probably, I don't know if it's a C or a D. Some people are saying Load's a D. I think Load's a C. Reload is probably a D. It's not an F or anything. There are, again, it's the same problem as Load. But the thing is they had like 20-something songs, and they're like, okay, they picked 14 and they put them on Load, so that means they probably picked their better 14. They picked the better half and put it on Load. And then they picked the worst half and put it on Reload. There's still really good songs on Reload. There's Fuel. There's Fixer, the last track. There's like Where the Wild Things Are. These are tracks that most people don't think of because they weren't big singles at the time. Unforgiven too. There's still good songs on Reload. The Reload has this problem though that again exists on some of their other albums like Death Magnetic, where there's individual parts of songs that are like straight up A, S tier, and then they just are wasted. So the best example here is Better Than You. Better Than You, the first like 2 minutes of the song, the first minute and a half of the song is like pure gold. This is an awesome song. And then they go into this weird little section where James is just kind of wailing, saying, oh, no, no, no. And then like they do that for like the rest of the song. They do it for like 2/3 of the song. And it's simply an awful section. And if you were a producer, you come in and be like, okay, guys, keep this stuff that's good. This first verse and chorus stuff, and then you need to write a new part here and just scrap that garbage. It just sounds awful. It goes nowhere. It becomes annoying. You're repeating yourselves too much. It's like, but a bunch of songs on the album are that way, where like an individual part is really good and the rest of it's garbage. Like they just assembled it from parts without any deference to the quality of the parts at all, you know. So let me. Yeah, Welcome Home Sanitarium, that's a great track. Yeah, every single song on both these albums are really good. I think Master of Puppets is a great song. I don't think it's annoying at all. It's got a great hard hit to it. It has a cool solo. In the solo for Master of Puppets, Kirk actually pulls a string off the fretboard and makes this weird pinch harmonic pop up, and you can hear it, and he just kind of goes with it. And they thought it sounded really cool, but they could never duplicate it on another solo take, so they just kept that solo in there. Even though there's a couple mistakes in the solo, that one note made the solo, so they left it in. And I think that's kind of a cool story, too. All right, moving on. So yeah, this is a D. There's good songs, but most of it is just simply not very good. I think Ride the Lightning is probably an S. You could say it's A or S. I don't think it's as good as Puppets. I don't think it's as good as Justice for All, but it's definitely an S. Again, 8 songs, all of them are good. So every single song on here really is worth listening to and worth playing. But in general, the compositional complexity is better on the next 2 albums, and it's just not quite as good as Master of Puppets. Every single song is good. They have that great Call of Cthulhu, has just a great atmosphere to it. Really excellent instrumental track with material from Dave Mustaine in there. Again, a lot of material left over from when Dave was in the band, and I think that helps the album to a certain degree. in general, I think it's a good album. I think it's absolutely one of these ones worth listening to all the way through. I think it's really easy to put on, Ride the Lightning. It's only 42 minutes or something, so you can just listen to the whole album in one sitting pretty easily. Kind of like Kill 'Em All, kind of like Rain and Blood by Slayer. Rain and Blood by Slayer is only like 20... It's less than 30 minutes long. I think it's 28 minutes long. All right, let's keep going. I don't know if I want to do S&M. S&M, see, S&M is such a unique album. I think even though I'm skipping live albums, I'm going to put it right here. It's a very interesting... At the time this came out, this was like a big deal because symphonic metal wasn't a thing that most people knew about, and it wasn't a thing that was mainstream, and it wasn't a thing that the less mainstream parts of metal were able to do at a high quality. So you had bands like Blind Guardian had already been around. You had bands like Manowar had already been around. Rhapsody's first album, I think, came out in 1998. And so nobody had heard of Rhapsody. I hadn't heard of Rhapsody when this album came out. So it was a really cool idea to have an orchestra and a metal band playing. I think it's probably their best live performance in general. They sound really clean in general. It's a good performance by Metallica, the band. I do feel like the orchestra just doesn't really add much to most of the songs, though. The two songs that were new, No Leaf Clover and what was the other one called? I don't remember the name of the other track. I can hear the song in my head, but I can't remember the name of it. But both of those were pretty good tracks, and those actually fit with the orchestra, I think, because they rehearsed them with the orchestra in mind and arranged them with that in mind, so it works. Otherwise, I think it's an interestingly curious album. I think it's a decent live album, but like I said, the orchestra just doesn't really add all that much to the songs, and you kind of just want to listen to the original studio versions better. But I don't know, it's a B. Let's move on. St. Anger. That's an F. That's an F. Welcome Home Sanitary was my final project for guitar class in high school. Nice. It's got some good stuff. So yeah, sometimes a song will grow on you if you listen to it. And it's rare to find an album where everything's good. And to me, that's like an S tier album. If everything is really good, you're going to do it. I realize Black Album is not on here. No, here it is. Here's Black Album. Okay, we'll get to Black Album in a second. Yeah, St. Anger, I mean, need more be said. It's better than Lulu. And Death Magnetic is definitely better than... Maybe Death Magnetic is here. But even here, like, if you were to pick 100 metal albums, Death Magnetic would be worse than 99 of them. You know, there'd be one album that it might be better than. So is that E or is that still F tier? I don't know. They're pretty bad. These three albums were all recorded right in a row, by the way. So they did 3 albums in a row that were so bad they probably should have ended their career with them, right? But St. Anger was bad across the board. No guitar solos. Really bad production. Terrible sounding guitars. That snare drum sound probably sounded cool when they were first doing it, but man, it gets on your nerves. The main thing is there's only one good song on the album. There's Frantic, which I like, and every other song I dislike. The vocal performances by James are generally bad across the board. So there's some fans, right? There's people that like St. Anger. And to them, I'm glad St. Anger exists. But for the rest of us, I think St. Anger is probably going to be one of the worst Metallica albums ever made. And it's legendarily bad. Like, Load and Reload were kind of disappointments for fans in the 90s. It was nothing compared to St. Anger. The people were like, yeah, I like Load, Reload. St. Anger came out, they're like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. James's vocals are comically bad. There's even, like, intonation issues. There's, his tone is awful. He's, like, I don't know. It's just the production is some of the worst. And the production really affects the quality of the songs, too. Because you have to imagine, it's kind of like a Bob Dylan song. You have to imagine what the band, if they actually sounded good, would sound like playing the song. But the reality is that most of the riffs are boring. They don't really work. A lot of the songs are too long for the amount of material that's in them. Again, no solos. And once you take the solo thing out of it, all of a sudden the arrangements seem very simple. There's a lot of like 2-part songs in there that are still like 5 minutes long. It's just way too much. If the Beatles wrote a 2-part song, it'd be a 2.5-minute song and be a classic. Whereas Metallica takes a two-part song, like two sections, like an A and a B section. They make it 5 minutes long, and it's just boring. So there you go. So I don't even have my copy of Saint Anger. I think I gave it away. I gave it away to my friend's sister years ago. I think it's like the only Metallica album I didn't hold on to after all those years. So anyway, Black Album. So we're skipping. This is already on Garage Inc. This is an EP. This is Garage Days Revisited. Black Album, I think, is a B. And I'll tell you why it's a B. So some people put it as S. They think it's an S. They think it's an A. They think it's really, really good. And if the fact is that it actually is a good album. A lot of people view it as the beginning of the decline, and that's probably accurate. But there's a lot of really good songs on the album. Again, it's 12 songs. 8 of them are good. So you have, from Black Album on, you start to have the same problem. However many songs, 8 of them are good. So you have 14 songs, 8 of them are good. You have 12 songs, 8 of them are good. You have 26 songs, 8 of them are good. So they produce, for every album cycle, they produce 8 really good songs. They should just stick to 8 songs, in my opinion, if you want to make the album good. Now, if you're one of those people that can pick out those 8 songs and just listen to those, then you're probably good. And their I guess, philosophy towards just putting everything on the album works. But anyway, Black Album's good. It's probably the best produced metal album of all time. I have not heard a metal album, and this was back in the early 90s. I haven't heard a metal album have the same level of high quality production as the Black Album. Absolutely crystal clear. The drums sound perfect. They have a great stereo array for the drums. Lars sounds like a good drummer on this album. He doesn't sound like a drummer in a good band. He sounds like a good drummer. He is a good drummer on the Black Album. His performances are, it's his best performance. I actually say his performance on Death Magnetic is really good too, of all things. But his performance on Black Album is probably his best performance. It's excellent. I actually like the drum production on Justice for All. It's very dry and in your up front in the mix. But I like it much better. It breathes so much on Black Album. The guitar tone is perfect. They're playing the same, basically the same amps, but they bring in a little bit more mid-range. It's a dual rectifier, which I have in the back. Same amp that they use for, I think, Master of Puppets On. They're using that amp. It's a really good sounding amp. Everything's in balance. The bass is nice and loud, big bass heavy mix. So the production's excellent. And then the songs are good. Very memorable songs, not just Inner Sandman. There's a reason Inner Sandman was covered by Motorhead. Motorhead won a Grammy for a cover of Inner Sandman. Think about that for a minute. Motorhead's Grammy was for covering a Metallica song. I think it was a Best Metal Performance Grammy. I think they won. If not, they got nominated. I remember that being something pretty curious. There's just so many good ones. Unforgiven, even Nothing Else Matters, which is kind of a cheesy ballad, but a lot of people like it, and you know what? It's very memorable, and I had a lot of guitar players that wanted to learn it on classical guitar because it had such a good little set of chords, and fingerstyle guitar on it was good. Same thing with Unforgiven, Through the Never, of Wolf and Man, just a lot of great songs on there. I'd say the first half of the album is a little stronger than the second half, but in general, you're looking at really good songs. There's a couple songs that really don't age well, like Don't Tread on Me. For whatever reason, that one sounds a little bit more cheesy a couple years down the road, but most of them have aged pretty darn well. I wouldn't say there's any bad songs on the album. I'd say there's 8 great songs and then like 4 decent songs. And in general, the great songs are not as great as in their 3 best albums. So, but if you're looking at a set, their first 5 albums are really, really, really good albums. Let's see what you guys think about it. A great name for a band, Metallica. Sounds like some kind of metallic element. Yeah, Lars actually stole the name of the band. He had a friend that was going to have a magazine called Metallica, and Lars convinced him not to make that magazine, I think, so he could use the name for his band. Rhapsody's first album was Legendary Tales, 1997. I thought it was 98, though it was almost exclusively covers of Eternal Glory from their previous name, Thundercross. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I knew they were Thundercross before, but like the production, Rhapsody's symphonic production wasn't really there until probably Symphony of Enchanted Lands, and it was really there once you got to like Dawn of Victory So when I think of symphonic metal, I'm really thinking of like Dawn of Victory and Power of the Dragon Flame. Those two albums are like some of the best symphonic metal you will ever hear. Power of the Dragon Flame in particular. If you haven't heard Power of the Dragon Flame by Rhapsody, you got to go listen to that. It's a great album. So I think Black Album, to me, B is good. You know, it might be A. You could probably make a case that it's an A, especially with the production. So I'd say it's a high B, low A. I'm gonna put it in A. I'm gonna say it's an A. Yeah. So I'm gonna call it an A. I'm gonna call it an A. And so this is the final version. I'm skipping the live albums. Those don't really matter. Their best live performances, you're probably gonna find it in this album, in the live. What is it? Live Shit, Binge and Purge. They're okay. I don't think their live albums are really worth writing home to. It's better to go see them in concert. They usually put on a good live show, and they still do. But anyway, those are the studio albums. I'd say that's the tier. That's the objective tier. Anyway, let's move on. Let's play some games. And now that you've had a little bit of background to some of those, Adam Sandler's the Metallica of comedy careers. That's true. I've heard that like he makes movies based on where his family wants to take vacations now. Anyway, let's move on. Hope you guys enjoyed that little piece. Let's play some Final Fantasy V. I haven't played that much off of stream, unfortunately, so you'll have to forgive me for not being like completely progressed. Like I wanted to finish this game this month, but I just had so much come up in my life and with my family. So that's kind of what we ended up with. We're probably going to do this over May and June. We are in the library now. I managed to beat Liquid Flame. That was a tough boss. Once I figured out his phases, he was actually not that hard. He responds to attacks by doing things, so you just take your time and heal up, and you're usually good to go. Let's get that music. Now we're in the library. Here we go. Boop bop, boop bop. We're going here? Yes. We're going into the basement of the library. Thoughts on the Eighth Mountain? I think it's by far the best album since Dragon Flame. Let me think. That's a Rhapsody of Fire album? Well, thank you for the super chat, Ramones. I appreciate it. Trying out Time Mage right now. I unlocked Ninja. What we really ought to do is actually... I don't think I have enough equipment. That's the problem. I should really make JoJo a ninja, but he's really good as a sorcerer right now, so I'm going to keep it like that for a bit. Until he, like, masters the sorcerer stuff. Because you could do sorcerer ninja and, like, have double flame swords and stuff. It's pretty good. What are your thoughts on the concept of bluegrass metal? I haven't really listened to it, so I have no thoughts on it. Oh, acoustic metal with no electric instruments or amplifiers. We had that kind of with Days of the New in the late 90s. Nothing new. I played in a band 15 years ago that purposefully didn't use distortion. It was basically a metal band, but like, I don't know. To me, the sound of the amplifiers is really part of metal. Doesn't mean you have to use them exclusively, but I think that's part of the metal sound. I like how everything you fight, it's like it's the stories coming to life out of these possessed books. Page 64 is like a demon. See, Sorcerer hits for 500 every time. It's nice. When he does, if something has a weakness to an element, you put that element on the sword, and then he'll hit for like 1500. It's one of the best things about Final Fantasy V, and simultaneously me turn down the music a bit. This is a bit loud. Simultaneously, one of the worst things, which is that once you get really good at the job systems, a lot of the game is pretty trivial. Video game soundtrack tier list. I can try, but it's like there's so much to take into account there. It's hard to say. And soundtracks of yore are different than the soundtracks today. Galoof gained a job level. Received time 1. Sweet. We can get that time magic going. Okay, yeah, it's Rhapsody of Fire. I haven't listened to that much Rhapsody of Fire. Oh! It's a fight. Page 32. Got a red mage. You get double cast with red mages, so you can double cast your summons, which are ridiculously powerful. Bye-bye, Spider. Page 128. Page 256. I think these are just bytes. I think it's 32, 64. So yeah, it's 32, 64, 128, 256. They just double every time. Have you seen the hilarious clip of Gary Busey explaining Predator that Alexander Helene tweeted on the 27th? No, I haven't. I don't really like Apocalyptica. I remember when it first came out, it was like cellos playing Metallica, and I thought it was kind of dumb. First, I thought I liked the idea, but I just didn't like the end result. It's kind of like Blind Guardian's Orchestra album. It's not that bad an album, but and it's a great idea. It just is not a. The end result is not that good. Yeah, Fabio Leone kind of defines Rhapsody for me. There's the new one, Fabio Leone Rhapsody, which I actually like. Their album they came out with was really good. I forgot to save. Let's go back and save. That's a good idea. It's gonna be a good idea to save. I love this filter that the Vita has. Because it really does to me look like especially on the actual machine, it looks like a CRT. Like this really looks like a CRT to me. And the sprites look a lot better. I didn't realize Metallica did an S&M too. I guess I wasn't party to that. What's that? Right now. It? Watch out! There's something funny about this. Getting attacked on both sides by books. Biblos. We put on Fire 2 sword. Put haste on him. He hits nice and hard. Protest. Let's see if we can actually mute the boss. Let's haste our ninja too. Ooh, he's dead. No! I think we won. I may be finished. But wait, my master seal will be blown wide open. The secret is in the fire sword. Just wanted to say hello. Been watching your videos recently. Love the content. Thanks. Thanks for stopping by. Any Final Fantasy V jobs that you find especially appealing so far? Sorcerer, I like the fire swords. Plus, if you combine it with the two-handed from the warrior, I think two-handed on warrior, then you hit twice as hard with those. So yeah, you can see he's hitting for like 1500. Twice as hard as a mage would hit. That's pretty cool. Cormac McCarthy's works. I don't know if I've read any of them. I don't know if we have to fight another boss here or not. So I'm going to... might as well just pull everybody up, you know? Alright. Oh! What? Can't you see I'm reading? You gotta be kidding. Didn't you hear us fighting? Oh, I thought something was banging around behind me. Was that you? Give me a break! Is this guy for real? Well, I'm done here. Coming? I know a secret route. Looks like there's holes on the floor I could have explored. Actually, I don't know what those were. Whatever. I like that there's no love interest in Predator. Mid! Not every story needs a love interest. You don't need a B love story. Mid! Thank God you're safe! Thank you so much for saving Mid. What a relief. You came to save me? Well, thank you. Perhaps I should have said so sooner. Anyway, look at this! I found the most amazing book. See, with this book, we should be able to repower the fire ship. We've got to tell Professor Sid right away. Sid? Yes, you know him. He's my grandfather. He's amazing, a brilliant researcher. Nothing ever stumps him. Or, you speak of the old Sid? As far as the new one. What? Now he'd be making a habit of being stumped. That can't be. I think Final Fantasy XII Sid is my favorite Sid. Mid! What advice would you give to a complete outsider concerning metal? I don't really understand it, thus can't appreciate it on a surface level. This sounds heavy. I have a list of albums, like 10 albums to get people into heavy metal. I'd probably start there. So it has some of the albums from like the list, like Black Album is a great one to start with because it's very accessible. Glory to the Brave by Hammerfall. You know, there's a bunch of albums there that I think are good for getting into metal. You know, a couple death metal albums too, because some people just, I don't know, that's what they end up really liking is Death metal is what I want. My punchy time wizard. Dr. Sid. I think Dr. Sid is named after Al Cid. Or El Cid. Because they actually have, like, a lot of references to that stuff in the Final Fantasy games. Here and there. You can get a sword called the El Cid, or the, Al Cid. Don't you need a B love story to get girls to buy it? Not necessarily. Women like a B love story, but actually so do men. Men actually like romances. They pretend that they don't, but they actually do. This should be a chimera here. Yeah. Aqua Rake. Ooh. Ouch. Oh, that didn't do much at all. So we can kill this guy quickly before he does something worse. There we go. My poor ninja. Queensryche Operation Mindcrime is a good metal album story. I went back and listened to it again at the gym a while back, and I was like, it doesn't really hold up. Like, I really liked it 20 years ago. Not so much now, and it's nothing like... It's not bad, it's just not nearly as good as we all pretended it was. Like, the fact that it's a concept album is what is interesting about it, but the individual songs are simply just not that good. Sorry, that's what it comes down to. Their first album, Warning, is probably better. There's other better Queensryche albums when you get down to it. I don't think Operation Mindcrime is bad, though. It's a good album. It's just not nearly as good as we thought it was. It just doesn't hold up as well. I feel that way about a lot of concept albums, actually. It's like the concept, you know, you sacrifice the quality of the individual parts to make the concept work, and then it just ends up not being as good. It's really rare to have a concept album that is actually, like, really good front to back. It's a very rare thing. Given how intense the Witcher fanbase is about who is better for Geralt, Triss, or Yennefer, at least as far as the games are concerned, proves guys care about romance a lot. Yeah. Triss is best girl. I don't know, why do people like Yennefer? She's a whore. No, Triss is best girl. Did you hear that Disney's making a new Predator movie? Yes. Don't watch this stuff, guys. If it's a remake or a reboot, don't watch it. Just do something else with your time. Think about, like, if you've never played Final Fantasy V, right? Think about all the classic games that exist out there that you probably haven't played that are going to be more worth your time than the crap that they're selling now. This is what you should really think of. It puts things in perspective. It's like, why would you watch the new Predator movie? You can watch one of any other movie from the past that's better. Alright. Which I think Sid is in the pub. Is he up here? Is this the pub? No, it's just some dude. Inn. Maybe the pub is in the inn? No, here it is. Here's the pub. He's upstairs, like, drinking his sorrows away. We need to stop caring about pop culture franchises, guys. Gotta move on. Sid! Mid didn't come. Steady there, Sid. It's no good. I don't even bother with me anymore. Grandpa! Mid! Ouch! Knock it off, Mid. What's wrong with you, you silly old fool? You never gave up. Never! Mid. You can't be afraid of failure. If you fail, then you just have to try again. You told me that. Mid. Mid. Try again. I think you're right. Oh, Mid, I think you're right. Grandpa! There's still the Earth Crystal. But where is it? Don't know, but we've got to find it and protect it. And to do that we need... the fire ship, right? Yeah, but without the fire crystal... Grandfather, take a look at this. Oh, where'd you get... Oh, it just might work. Mid, you've done it. We've no time to lose. Right. Alright, we're gonna go to the fire ship now. When they make something good, they'll pathologically hide it from the public, like a riot in Cell Block 99 was. Hollywood has a nepotism problem. Like any system you create that ends up highly nepotistic has a chance of destroying itself. Out of my way, boys! You'll have to excuse Mid, he's all fired up. Why don't you rest below until we get her started? It's moving on its own. Galoof, what is it? You do look odd. More than usual, even. Are you alright? My head. I felt like I could almost remember. Grandpa. Mid. Grandpa. Krill. Krill. Ouch. Knock it off, Mid. What's wrong with you, you silly old fool? You never gave up. Never. Ouch, hey, knock it off. Silly old fool. I like the yellow filter. That's actually kind of subtle. They did that with bit art, you know? Pixel art. Krill. Galoof, snap out of it. Did you remember something? I'm not from this earth. I came by meteorite from another planet to stop the evil spirit we'd sealed up 30 years earlier from reviving itself. Evil spirit? Revive? That's right, the Black Mage, ex-Death. No doubt about it, the power of the four crystals is gathered here. Then let's use their power to seal ex-Death up here. Pretty deep in the game before you figure out like what's actually going on. It's kind of interesting. It takes a long time for you to get the reveal of like, oh, there's like a bad guy called ex-Death. So I came here by meteorite 30 years ago. Then ex-Death will be free if the four crystals are destroyed? Right. Oh. Galoof. I still can't remember everything. But we can't let ex-Death free. Galoof! I'm alright. Uh-oh, these guys are asleep. What are you guys doing, sleepyheads? Snore, snore, snore. Yawn, I slept great. I slept great. Sound familiar? We've finished. Now we can sail even without any wind. We'll find the Earth Crystal now. Good. We're counting on you. We're going to the Library of Ancients. There might be some clues there. Let us know if you need us. Take care. We're off. All right, now we have our boat. I think we still have our dragon back at the other place. Oh, we still have to fight monsters on the ocean. These guys are tough. A bit of fins here, this Murloc. What time is it? Oh, 2 o'clock. We'll play for a little while longer, and then we'll see about calling the stream there and doing something else. Okay, so the Library of Ancients is down there if we need to go there. We probably want to go out to sea this way. Oh no, a back attack! Let's see if I have lightning. That's the white music. Here we go. Bolt. Bolt 2. Hit both of them. Are you familiar with the Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories by Fritz Lieber? Yes. I think so. I'm about to start Final Fantasy XII. Any advice before I begin? If you're gonna play the... I don't know. It'd be don't be too hasty to spend like your job points or whatever they are. Because I think on the newer versions you can reset them, but you know, you want to save them. Your license points, that's right. So if you're working on the license board, a lot of that is you don't want to like buy the slot for gear unless you have the gear. There's not too much else. Like, you'll figure out most of everything along the way. The job system's really fun to play around with. It's probably the best part of the Zodiac Age version. I like the story. Things happen very quick, and it's very... all the exposition's very indirect, so you've got to pay attention to certain things. There's like a lot of details from the beginning part of the story that don't actually show up until like way later. You know, like Nabudis, the fact that Nabudis has fallen, and then you finally go to Nabudis, and it's like an undead city of like horror. It's kind of interesting. And it's optional. Like, there's a huge amount of optional content. Like, you don't have to go to Nabudis. Yeah, I mean, it's a good game. One of the things I'd say about Final Fantasy XII is, like, things can go rather quickly or rather slowly depending on what you want to do. Like, if you want to do the hunts, if you want to do all the hunts, you get a lot of good gear from them, but they're actually not that necessary. You don't need, like, all the best gear in order to finish the game. The last boss is not that difficult, particularly if you have done like your job systems pretty well. If you've done your jobs pretty well, done your licenses pretty well, then it's pretty easy to do. I guess I might make a video on Final Fantasy XII for like what job combinations I recommend, because there's so many options. It's hard to know like what you should actually do. Oh, thank you for the super chat, VCR Repairman. I'm at a crossroads. Do I sell my geeky stuff, comics, video games, and put the money into other goals, or do I hold on to it? Well, here's my role as far as like holding on to stuff or not holding on to stuff. Is that if you think you're going to use it again, absolutely hold on to it. Like, same thing with books. So I'll just use books as an example. If I've read it twice, I don't sell it because I'm going to read it a third time, probably. And if I've only read it once and it's been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years, it's okay to give it away. I'm probably not going to read it again. And so I get rid of a lot of books because I just don't see myself reading them again. And thank you for the other super chat, Zimamari. Triss is indeed best girl. Yen fans are crazy. Yeah, she's awful. She's not awful, but Triss is the real hottie. She's the redhead. So yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna read the comics again, you don't have to get rid of them. It's okay to like things, okay? It's okay to like your stuff and say, like, I have stuff, I have collections of things, I guess, but I'm pretty slim on actually collecting things. Like, I have, you can't see it right now, but I have guitars, right? People are like, oh, you have a guitar collection. I'm like, I have an assortment. collecting is really something that is almost like it's almost like a disorder, I think. Is the best way I can put it. It's like people collect to have a complete collection, not because they like the thing which they are collecting. Ouch, he died. I got it. I guess because they're flying, they're hard to hit. So like I have video games, I hold on to them. I would have very much regretted getting rid of my old game systems because they provide a lot of entertainment and a lot of fun. So no, I don't think you have to get rid of, quote, geeky stuff. The thing is like, and what are you going to do with that money? Like, what's the other goal you're going to do with it? That's the other question, right? It's like almost, if it goes with like equipment, like I've sold equipment. I had a great like old Fender like blackface amp. I sold it because I felt like I wasn't going to use it. And then I regret selling it because it has such a unique tone. I wish I would have had it around and available to use again. But whatever. I don't have it. That's all. I don't have it anymore. It's not that big a loss. I sold a lot of my CDs a while back, and I kind of regret doing that because I really would say the physical media is better to hold on to, you know? Crescent Town. Here comes another quake! What? Hey, the ship! It's sinking! Oh no! My ship! Speaking of redheads, why do you think there's such an effort in Hollywood to erase redheads? Because they're the whitest people that exist. They're clearly not anything but Northern Europeans. We get a lot of earthquakes on this island. Every time one comes, a whirlpool appears. Was your ship swallowed up in a whirlpool? That's too bad. Alright, so we're here. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about selling stuff, especially stuff that you're going to use or like later on. But as far as like future budgeting, it's probably a good idea to, preservation alone, I probably want to keep my comics and stuff. I sold all my comics, almost all of them, years ago. Because I was just done with comics. This was like 20 years ago. Do I regret selling them? Not really. I kept the ones that I thought were kind of cool, and I just sold the rest. And if I really want to get them again, I can. Or I can get like the Spider-Man like Epic Collections or something if I want to read old Spider-Man. There's a lot of other options, but like if you sold it, you're probably not going to get a ton of money out of it unless you have a legit collection. And then what are you going to do with that money? Like what are you going to buy with it? Like what other goals are you going to pursue with it? I don't know. It just depends what you want to do. Like if you're going to buy musical equipment or something like that, I don't know. Might be better to just save over the long term anyway. There's something to be said about like the Roka ruins are on the western continent. It's strange, but the artifacts discovered there are the same as ours. Hey, old timer, tell these folks about the chocobos. Yeah, are you going to spend it on like tuition at a university? Because I wouldn't recommend that either. If you're wanting to just get rid of your stuff to live a simpler life, that's a different thing that you'll have to deal with yourself on and like internally with. You know, let me kill the music for a second and just talk. Everything that you own is something that has to be dealt with. Something that has to be carried with you. Why is my focus out? There we go. Right, everything that you own. Like I'm remembering this movie called Up in the Air that basically described a job my cousin had, which was to like fly around to these different companies and like work on restructuring them. He was a tax attorney. And in this movie, he fires people, right? But he gives a speech like, you have a backpack. Imagine all the stuff, you're putting all the stuff in your backpack. All that stuff makes it more difficult to take risks. So depending on where you are in your life, it's maybe better or worse to have the stuff. I had lots of stuff, and I managed to move to Las Vegas with like 20 guitars and a bunch of amps. But like 90% of my stuff I realized was like fit in my truck. Even though it's a lot of stuff, it was like my guns, my guitars, and my computer. Everything else could have been destroyed, and I wouldn't have cared. Even my clothes. I don't care that much. I could get new clothes from Goodwill if I had to, right? So if everything I own had been destroyed other than my like guitars, my amp, my computer, my guns, I would have been okay with it. Everything I owned was pretty simple. I have bookshelves full of books that I like, but none of them are like super rare, irreplaceable, other than my own books, which you can get on Amazon. Now available in hardback. This epic odyssey of fantasy, Water of Awakening. If you're wanting to live a nomadic lifestyle, that means you need to get rid of stuff. If you're not going to live a nomadic lifestyle, you don't really need to get rid of it. And I saved a lot of toys. Like I saved all my Legos from when I was a kid because I wanted to have kids, and I knew my kids might want to play with these cool toys from the 80s. So I held on to them. And my son loves to play with my Ninja Turtles and my Legos and my Starcom guys and my other stuff from the 80s. It's good. So I don't regret holding on to the stuff that I've held on to, but I'm aware that it's easy to make attachments. Now, if you haven't read or listened to the new Gen Y story, this has a lot to do with what we're talking about here. So I'm just going to link it in chat for you if you want to read it. And if you want to listen to the audiobook, I'll grab the audiobook for you too. And you can listen to the audiobook for free. I put out these stories for free for people, but it has a lot to do with your attachments in life. Your attachments to things and to ideas. And so the character in this is very attached to certain things, certain pleasures of life. His consoles, his TV, his computer, his World of Warcraft, his guns, his basically some of the things that I care about. That I'm aware I get too attached to in this material world. Eventually, all the material things have to be given up because eventually you die. So, because you eventually die, the things that you care about, the objects that you care about will pass away from you. You will lose them. Or you may end up old and unable to use them anymore and have to sell them. Like my grandparents had to sell their whole estate in order to move into assisted living in their 90s because my grandfather had had a series of strokes that left him blind and he couldn't care for himself. So basically, I feel like this is kind of tragic for my grandfathers. All the things which he bought in his life and he cared so much about. He worked his entire life very hard to buy a house and buy cars and things that he cared about and build the things that were to last, that he was to enjoy until the end of his life. And all of those things he had to give up before he died. All of those things had to go away. There was this moment my mom talks about where my grandfather got in. He just wanted to sit in his truck. His truck that we had to sell because he couldn't drive it because he'd gone blind. And he said, I think I could see. I just want to back the truck out of the driveway. And it's like, no, you can't do that. You can't back the truck out of the driveway. So he had to give up everything that had mattered to him in a physical sense. And that's something that I've recently been thinking a lot about. It's not so much like, do you sell your geeky stuff and use the money for something else? You can do that if you feel like you're done with the geeky stuff and you don't want it anymore and you're not going to use it anymore and it doesn't mean anything to you. Figurines, if those are some of the like Funko Pops or something, if you want to sell Funko Pops, go for it. Those are trinkets, those are tchotchkes, those are baubles. Those are things that maybe are not that necessary, you're not going to use. If you have a Funko Pop that means something to you for some reason, there's no reason not to keep it. I have little trinkets here, right? I've got like this little, I've got these little stuffed animals. Well, someone gave this to me years ago, so I just kept it. This was like something that my wife used to have. These are things that that meant something. You know, this boar skull is from a boar that I shot with my dad. You know, there's a boar up there, right? Why have the boar on the wall? Well, it's when I went hunting with my dad and I shot this boar. And we mounted it because it looked cool. We wanted a mounted boar, you know. My wife got me this guitar. Like, these things mean things, but if I had to give them up, it's something that I guess I could give up in the end. It's okay to have them around because they remind me of things that are important. So, but they're baubles, you know. So it's up to you. If you are the person who collects things in order to have a complete collection, and you don't enjoy the individual things, that might be something that is worth thinking about letting go of, but I'm not going to tell you yay or nay. It just depends who you are and what you want to do. I know collectors that collect very specific things, and that's just the thing that they like to collect, and they don't have a mental disorder surrounded around having to collect every Star Wars thing ever or something like that. So it's really up to you how you're going to deal with that. But it was really striking for my grandfather's. Everything that he had built up and bought and collected for himself, he had to get rid of. And really, he didn't get to make the choice. He had to be put into assisted living, and then his children had to sell all of his stuff and his house. You know? And then he was in assisted living for like 4 years and died. That's very sad to me. So, anyway, a lot of that has to do with that story I wrote. Our attachments, they sometimes define too much of us. And so Middlebury is about a place of attachments and how you overcome those attachments. To remember them in context and know that they were real and that those attachments had meaning, but at the same time that you're ready to move on from those things. And writing it kind of made me decide that, like, I wasn't going to play WoW TBC, even if my friends are playing it, because it's an attachment to a time and a place with specific people, and I can't go back there. You know, I'll just be in a state of limbo or purgatory forever doing that. Anyway, so that's my speech on that. With physical media on the downturn, I collect physical media, so I personally own it rather than dealing with the possibility of it being taken away later digitally. I agree, and that's something to keep in mind for things that you actually care about. Books. You know, books, video games, like if you get your Super Nintendo carts, your PlayStation discs, hold on to those. Especially if it's before the PS3 generation, because those things don't require digital updates and things like that. And even the PS3 generation, all your software will pretty much run from the disk, even if they take the servers down. It just won't be patched. There's going to be bugs and stuff. So you're not going to have the best version of it. Anyway, yeah. Actually, I finished reading Middlebury just today and thought it was a slow start. I think it's really cool. Probably the best of the January Tales. Thank you. It's playing off of the things I established in the other one. So the whole idea of, like, let me evoke this mood of nostalgia, it's playing on the things I previously established. So when I put it in the book, I'm probably going to release a whole book of these. It's going to be the last one, like the last part of the cycle is going to be that particular story. For that reason, is that it's working on all the other things that have been kind of previously established as far as mood goes. So I might do one more. You didn't read the story close enough. If you think that he had to leave his wife, you didn't read it close enough. You didn't think about it, and you haven't studied the Bible either. When they asked Jesus who will be married to him in the kingdom of heaven, you have to think about that too. That's an earthly thing. It may not have even been his wife. Like, the attachment is real, but it may not have even been his wife. He doesn't even know. Nor will she remember if he left. I don't get action figure collecting. I just had action figures to play with as a kid. Anyway, we're running out of time, so I'm probably going to run out here, save the game, and I'll call it here. Hopefully some of that information's been helpful for you. You've had fun playing a little bit. I'll be back next week. I might take a week off in June because I'll be going on a vacation with my family. So if I'm missing for a week, that's why, but I'll probably make an announcement on the channel or something. And I'll probably have more content coming later today. So Make sure you guys have a great day. And I will see you all next time. As we are basically out of time for the stream today. I do appreciate it. It was a good stream. Thank you for all the questions and comments. I always do appreciate it so much. So you guys have a good one. Not too much to announce on the book front. Preparing a lot of stuff for July, which is the Kindle Vellum launch. So I don't have a lot of stuff that's like coming out right now. Second half will be a little bit more busy. We do have the hardbacks, of the like revised editions of these, so you can buy those if you want a hardback copy. They're laminate hardbacks, no dust jackets or anything, because that's what Amazon does, but they're pretty good quality, and so I like them, and they are an option if you are interested in those. I used to have a Patreon. I shut it down because I don't like the way Patreon works as far as it directing my workflow. I do have a Subscribe Star. I may open up a Patreon, but I won't give any kind of rewards to patrons if I do. It's just gonna be like, if you want to give me money through Patreon, you can, for whatever reasons that exist to you. But if you don't want to give me money through Patreon, it's like I don't want to give rewards to patrons. I don't like that because it controls my output in ways I don't like. I generate my output on a different set of vectors than what most creators on YouTube do. Most creators on YouTube are focused on like, I want to do content for my audience, and I'm like, I'm looking to just do what I want to do all the time. But I really look at YouTube as an advertisement for really the other half of my business, which is selling books. I like doing YouTube content. I like that content to be valuable in and of itself, but really it's just like, it's kind of half the business. And Patreon, I find it's just like, I don't want to make promises to people that I can't keep. I tend to want to do things and then offer them for sale once they're complete, not make a promise when I haven't done something. Promise to do something when I haven't done something, and then be forced to do something that I don't really want to do. I just don't really like the way Patreon influences me. So I may open up Patreon again, but it's not going to be like the way most people do Patreon. So I have published hardcovers on Amazon. Can anyone publish them? I don't know. I don't know if it's exited beta, but I think it has. I know I can sell them. I know I can sell paperbacks in Australia now, so that's good. So if you're in Australia, you can now buy the paperbacks. Woo! So that's good. They're going to print them and ship them in Australia. So hopefully you won't have to pay like $50 to get like a book imported from like, wherever they print them. Europe or wherever. So anyway, guys, thanks so much, and I will see you guys next time.